What's up? What's going on, my loves? How is everybody doing? Jasmine Atten here, Mystic at the Crossroads, your favorite witch's favorite witch, coming at you with another video. Today we are going to be talking about sweetening jars. And I use the term sweetening jars because we're not going to just only talk about honey jars, but we're going to talk about the variations and the different types of sweetening jars: honey jars, sugar jars, water jars. Yes, water jars, something no one talks about, to help you figure out, one, why would you want to use one, how to properly prepare one so that it's successful, and how to determine what ingredients you need so that your jar can be effective. And we're just going to kind of go over sort of the differences. I have seen a lot of videos here on YouTube, and people have put up great videos about preparing a sweetening jar, preparing a honey jar for love is pretty common. That's most likely what most people tend to think about with a honey jar is love. Second to that, I think, would be court cases. You're trying to sweeten the judge. You're trying to sweeten a situation in your favor. However, jar spells have been used over time in magic and folk magic for many years. They are highly effective, and they're not just isolated to money, legal cases, or love related. So we're going to kind of break that down a little bit and get you to have a full understanding so that you can start incorporating sweetening jars into your practice so that you can see better success in the things that you are trying to conjure and create. So first and foremost, I think it's important for you to understand what exactly is a sweetening jar. And what I mean by that is, we know, we get the concept, right? You put something sweet in there, you write out a petition, you light a candle on it, boom. But what is the purpose that the jar itself actually serves? Everything has symbolic meaning. So what would be the difference in creating a jar versus burning a 7-day candle? All right. So first and foremost, a jar is a type of container spell. And I wish these would be more referred to as container spells, but it just doesn't sound as sexy or whimsical or magical. A container spell. So if you think about a container spell, what does that do? That contains something, that holds something in place, right? It can hold the energy, the request, the petition in place, and it can be used over a kind of a long time frame. Meaning, a container spell is more of, I don't want to necessarily say a permanent solution, but we're just going to call it a long time spell or a long-term spell. Okay. So with a typical 7-day candle, which you guys know, candle magic is my expertise. It works very well and it produces fast results. That's why we love it, right? However, if you have a situation that can be complex, that can require long-term work, maybe you have a really big goal that you're working on, or maybe you're working on a situation or a person that just doesn't respond to candle magic. And believe it or not, or we'll say not just candle magic, we'll say this form of candle magic, like burning a simple 7-day candle or stick candle, freestanding candle, whatever it is. Believe it or not, there are people and there are situations that don't respond very well to candle magic itself. You need a combination of elements pulled together to create the results that you want. So, for example, in a 7-day candle ritual, you have a candle, you have oils, maybe you have herbs, perhaps you write on the candle or you write out a petition, boom, great, right? But what if whatever the situation or person you're working on can be maybe more of a stubborn target, or maybe you need to combine a couple elements. You need to combine fire and water together, and that's going to in turn heighten the energy that's being directed to the goal that you're trying to create. Does that make sense, y'all? I hope you guys are following me. I'm trying to keep this super simple with a lot of my videos. I find it's very important. I think you have to first understand the dynamics, the symbology behind the tools that you're using. At least for me, I have to understand what I'm doing. so it can make sense in order for me to believe that it works. So if you just throw me a jar and tell me, here, put this together and light a candle and boom, you're going to get your results. If I don't know what does the jar symbolize, what does the candle mean, what does the honey do, then it's going to be hard for me to wrap my mind around the aspects of how that's all going to come together and be successful. So container spells do they keep the energy contained in a place of where you want it. B, they are cost effective. So you can have a container spell that you could keep a jar spell for a whole year and work the energy around your situation or your person for a much less fraction of the price, because this is already prepared, versus if you were burning a candle once or twice a week. Typically 7-day candles tend to burn a little bit faster. They burn out in like 4 or 5 days. So you're having to go back and buy repetitive candles over and over and over again, and you're burning all these candles and you're spending all this money when you could just have a jar, one and done, that's not going to require so much money. There is work that needs to be put into this. There are candles that have to be burned. We're going to get into that in just a second. So that's kind of a little bit about what a jar spell is. The symbology over the putting the top and sealing the jar and burning the candle on it and allowing the wax to flow down the jar is just that. I am sealing, I am grounding, I am holding into place all of the magical energy that's surrounding my request, and it's going to stay contained for as long as I want it to be present in my life, or as long as it takes in order to manifest. Okay, so why choose a honey jar or a sweetening jar? Well, like I said, one, it's cost effective. Two, it's great to be used over a long period of time. So if you have a stubborn target that you're working on, if you have a stubborn situation that you're working on, maybe you have a big goal. So maybe you have a goal of manifesting a new house. Maybe you have a goal of working on yourself, self-love. Maybe you have a goal of putting the spice and energy back into your marriage. Maybe you have a goal of wanting to work on your boss. You know, you are overdue for a raise. You've been at a company for a couple of years and your review is coming up and you know that you are due for a raise, and you want to sweeten the boss up just a little bit to maybe get your raise from, you know, 25 cent, 50 cent to $1. I mean, I don't know. These are just examples. Maybe you have a court case coming up. Maybe you have an ongoing court case that you're dealing with. I mean, these can be, I mean, we all know there's a number of things. You can get in trouble. You can have, there's custody issues, there's divorces, there's all sorts of things. So perhaps you're dealing with a situation that you know is going to be ongoing over a period of time longer than a week or 2 weeks. Again, maybe your situation needs a lot of energy, and perhaps you've burned candles and you haven't really seen results, or you haven't seen results quick enough, or you haven't seen results potent enough. You're like, okay, I got to figure out something else. Then that would be a good reason to choose a sweetening spell. Sweetening spells are designed to sweeten people and situations to your favor. So they will favor you. Things will go in the direction that you want. Things you want to ask for will be successful. You can also do sweetening spells on yourself. So maybe you're working on your own self-esteem. Maybe you're working on insecurities. Maybe you're healing from trauma. Maybe you're trying to just get the hell out of your own way mentally and emotionally. Maybe you are trying to be more loving to yourself and not, you know, so much negative self-talk and so much criticism and so much doubt. I mean, there's so many different reasons how and why a sweetening spell can be very effective. And I have 4 examples here that I'm going to show you guys that I'm super excited about, because these are jar spells that I mean, I don't see anybody else making these kind of spells. I'm not saying mine are special, but they're definitely different than what you're going to find if you like Google search or YouTube search. So bear with me. How long do they take to work? So that depends. And the reason why I say that is, if you think about honey, this is why I am stressing the word sweetening. It's kind of a umbrella blanket term, right? Take this honey, for example. Now, this is a personal jar. I made this jar for myself. This is a self-love jar. It has lots of yummy ingredients in here. We've got red clover and sweet orange peels and, gosh, I don't even remember, orris root and jasmine flower. And this is because I've been working on my own like self-love, really working on my confidence, really wanting to address the things in my life that I feel like it's time for me to kind of grow the experiences that I've had, and just feeling very good and being the best version of myself. What was really important with this jar for me was to work from a heart chakra kind of space. I can be very spicy, very feisty. I get anxiety a lot of times. I get irritable very easily, being a water sign, being a Pisces. So I want to make sure that everyone that I encounter and situations that show up in my life, that I am dealing with them from a very grounded, clear head, clear mind, that I'm able to communicate my needs and wants and feelings in a way that is very clear to other people, and that I pretty much work out of my heart chakra. And whenever I encounter something challenging or someone who is challenging, to not really take it personal, but look at the lesson as what it is, handle the situation, and then reflect on myself. So this is my personal honey jar, but let me show you guys something. Look at that. Now, it's so funny. She actually wants to move. She must know you guys are watching because I flipped this jar over earlier and she didn't do anything. So now she wants to move for us, but that's okay. So you guys just take a look at this for a second. You see how slow, minus the fact that it just flipped over, but you see how slow the honey pours? She is really, okay. This is so funny. She's making making a liar out of me. I'm trying to prove a point here, but honey moves slowly. Let me show you another example. Now this one does it. I'm cutting this video off. This is a money honey jar. And this is eucalyptus honey. This is actual green honey. I didn't dye it. There's no food coloring in it. There isn't anything that turned it green. This is actual green honey. It has eucalyptus, rosemary, my brain, come on, eucalyptus, rosemary, mint, it's on the tip of my tongue. If I remember it, I'll let you guys know. But it has all the beautiful green herbs in it. It's a little spicy when I tasted it, but it's actual green honey. Now look. Y'all see that? It ain't moving. I mean, it is, but it moves very slow. It's really pretty though. Isn't this pretty? And inside of here, there's money down in here. There's coins, there's dollar bills, there's shredded money, there's cinnamon. I mean, there's so much. Don't ask me the recipe because I don't remember. I was in trance when I created this jar. And then there's the candle on top for where it's been burning. Now, this is a water jar. You see that? You see how quickly that's moving around? So my point here is, how long does it take to work? It depends on the ingredients. Honey's very thick. Does honey work? Absolutely. But honey is very slow moving in my experience. A water jar, this was overnight. When I tell you overnight, like the next day results, okay? I'll tell you guys what this is in a second. You have sweeteners that are a little bit thinner. So you have like agave syrup, a little bit thinner. You have molasses, a little bit thicker. You have sugar. You can make a sugar shaker jar. That's going to, you shake it up, it moves very quickly. It's going to move energy around quickly. So how quickly or how slowly the jar works depends on the ingredients that you use and the situation that you're working on, and how well and how often you work your jar. In my opinion, a honey jar can work as quickly as a water jar or a sugar shaker jar or a sweetening jar. Yes, they absolutely can. However, I wouldn't, count my lucky stars on it. Better be safe than sorry. So, like I was saying, if you're doing, like, for example, my self-love, this is going to be a lifelong commitment of growing and just understanding and learning and just continuing to work on being the best version of myself as I evolve, right? Now, am I going to keep this jar for the next 10 years? No, I'll make a new one. But in the meantime, I will probably work this jar for a good minimum of 3 months. depending on how it begins to look. Maybe 6 months, maybe a year, I don't know. But the more I see it working, the more I'm going to work the jar. This jar worked very quickly, and it will continue to work quickly because of the way that I prepared it. But then that goes into how do you activate them and how do you work them. So you activate your jars by burning a candle on them. Now, some people might disagree. I heard a woman in a video that was talking about jars, and let me just say, everyone has their own practice. Everyone has their own way of doing things. This is just what's worked for me. However, and she had a great video. I'm not knocking her video. I'm not knocking her practice. I'm not knocking the way she does her jars. However, she said one thing that I completely disagreed with. And she said that if you don't have a candle to work your jar, then you simply can use like an LED candle. I get magic is all intention based, but come on now. An LED candle, seriously, a battery operated little piece of plastic on top of your beautiful jar that contains roots and flowers and oils and herbs and honey or whatever it is that you decide to use. How is that going to work? Fire is an element. A candle is an element. You can inscribe on the candle. You can anoint the candle. The whole purpose of using the candle is to seal the wax over the jar, to seal the energy inside of here, to use the different colors. Each color candle represents something different in the jar that you are working. So in my personal opinion, I don't feel like LED candles will be effective. I understand where she was coming from, but I just feel like if you don't have a candle, an LED candle isn't going to activate your jar. You'd be better off sitting your jar outside under the sunlight. Let the sun activate the jar. That's the sun is the best candle we have, if you ask me. Sit it under the moonlight during a full moon. Let the moon activate your jar. But essentially, you have to use a candle. Now, can you work your jar? Can you have a honey jar that is effective? Can you work your jar without a candle? Yes, you can. You would just shake your jar and speak your intention over it on a daily basis. Will it be as effective? Possibly. I'm not going to say yes or no. However, in my opinion, the candle element, the fire aspect, that fiery, quick, strong, hot energy is what's going to bring the results. So if you're able to get a candle, you can afford, hell, you can go to Dollar Tree and get a pack of candles for $1. Then that would be the best way of activating your candle spell. So how do you determine what to use? How do you know if you should use sugar? How do you know if you should use honey? How do you know if you should use water? This is kind of my rule of thumb to keep it simple. Water slips through your hands, right? It moves very quickly. It gets into crevices of things. So if you have a situation that maybe you have a court date, you got 3 days to figure out something. You have, I'm going to go back to this particular spell. You have an extremely stubborn situation or extremely stubborn target. Water is an amplifier of energy. So adding water to a jar with specific ingredients will immediately make things move. Water moves, right? You want the situation to move. You want the person to move. You want the problem to move. You want whatever it is. You want to manifest something. You want to come to you quickly. You want things to move in your favor. You would use water. This is for quick results. Water is used for quick results and stubborn targets. Now, I know some of y'all are going to be like, it's just regular water, Jasmine? Faucet water? Alkaline water? So this particular jar I created for a couple. This is like I call it a peaceful communication jar. So this is not a love jar. This jar was specifically to bring peaceful communication between two people who very much loved each other, but could not seem to have a simple conversation about the simplest things in their relationship without ending up in a fight or an argument. Everything was a problem. And that happens oftentimes, sometimes in relationships, what's being communicated, what's being said isn't being received the way it was said. Sometimes things come out wrong, sometimes things are received wrong, sometimes things are misinterpreted. Sometimes you have two totally different, you have your view of things, I have my view of things, and then we just can't come into the middle. So this, if you notice, there's like a ton of lavender. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me see. Infamous. Is that gonna focus? YouTube hand. That has a ton of lavender in here. The reason why it's purple is because there is lavender oil. No, excuse me, there's lavender hoodoo water in here. Purple is a color for commanding, so you know the client wants to command the partner to actually active listen in here. And when I say, and then there's photos, you guys can't see them, but there's a photo in here. There's an abundance of like herbs, communication herbs, like nutmeg, deer tongue, forget-me-not flowers. There's a lot. I'm not going to go into all the ingredients. This was a very special jar. There's sugar in here. There is water. So I did put regular water, but I also put lavender water, lavender hoodoo water. Now, obviously, the lavender hoodoo water I used was purple, and that was when we go into like color magic, I chose that on purpose. But lavender water does come in clear in the, oh, I want to tell you how good this stuff smells. Oh my goodness. Now, I did a video on hoodoo waters like 4 years ago, and I think I want to do an updated video because there's so much that I've learned about these. Now, you guys will hear me talk about how a lot of these things are not, they may not have essential oils in them, right? They're kind of, I think the ingredients is on here. So we're just going to be 100% transparent, right? Water, alcohol, SDA alcohol number 40. I don't know what that is. It says red number 40. I think this might be a general label. I don't know because this is obviously clear. Fragrance, FDNC blue number 1, FDNC red. I don't know what FDNC means. I'm assuming that's some sort of chemical. Alcohol is for a preservative. There's obviously going to be water in here and fragrance. If it was essential oils, it would probably say that. But, and then I'll show you guys, like I'm not making this up. I know it's backwards, but you guys get the drift. However, the certain scents attract certain type of spirits, attract certain type of energies, and certain smells trigger certain responses in the brain. So even though this doesn't have lavender essential oil in it, I put actual dried, fresh dried lavender in the jar, but the smell itself, remember this is all energy based, right? So we're directing energy to the situation. We're also calling upon angels, ancestors, and spirit guides, deities, or whoever it is that you work with to aid in the magic. So the scent, the smell of certain things attracts that spiritual aid to you. Here's another one, rose. Again, smells beautiful. This smells, I love roses, they're my favorite. Smells so good. I mop my house in this to attract the energy of love and positivity so that the house smells beautiful. So in this jar I put lavender to bring peace and calmness, and like I said, it worked, literally worked overnight. Then you have peaceful home. So for anyone that may be, if you have a quarrel, if you are not getting along with your, roommates, friends, family, kids, spouse in your home, then you might want to create a water jar so it works quickly with peaceful home, and then sugar and other actual natural ingredients that hold that energetic vibration for what it is you're trying to manifest. I hope that's clear. I'm not trying to get too technical. I just really want you guys to, understand how you would construct your jars. Now, this money jar will be worked on forever. It's a beautiful jar. There'd be no reason to disassemble it and take it apart. This is for long-term abundance and prosperity, so it's okay to be honey, because this isn't a spell jar asking for, I need the light bill paid next month. This is just a general jar to keep the energy of prosperity flowing and ongoing for the year. So honey in this case is okay, because this is long-term abundance coming in. We're not asking for anything specific. This jar, this is a chicken heart jar. I said it, chicken heart jar. This jar I created for a couple who finally hit the sweet spot in their relationship after some bumps in the road and some turmoil. And this jar was not to, and let me make this very clear. You can use jars for commanding. You can use jars for banishing. You can use jars for hexing. You can use jars to control a person. Yes. This jar was not to control the other partner or force them or influence them or make them feel some sort of way. This jar was specifically to keep what was already naturally there right where it was, because it got to, after, you know, the hurt feelings and the breakup and the reconciliation, all that. This jar was created to keep that energy of love in its sweet spot. So there's chicken heart. I preserved this jar with vodka. There's like hibiscus syrup and a lot of other things in here. And then each color candle that I burned on here has a different representation. So I activated the jar with a beeswax candle. Purple is for commanding, red's for love, blue is for communication. And normally with this particular jar, this client, we consult pretty frequently, and once a month I will put a fresh candle on it. So and this particular jar, there is a drop of honey, but there's no honey in this jar. This is an alcohol jar. This was completely preserved with vodka to preserve the relationship and the feelings and the direction that they were headed, to keep going in that direction and keep things from, keep things from coming in and like interrupting. So that is the 4 different kinds of jars, different ways to make them. And I hope that kind of gave you an idea or an explanation of why you would choose one ingredient over the other and how they would best work for you. Let's see. I'm checking my notes here. How do you dispose of these jars? So, again, it all depends. I wouldn't get rid of this. Why would you get rid of a money jar? I would just keep that forever, right? You can always refresh it. You can make a new one, but I would keep it. I would keep my self-love jar. But typically, rule of thumb is you bury your jars once you're done. So either you've seen the results, you've got the results, the jar may no longer be working. You may not feel like it's working. You may not feel the energy. Or you're in a place now where you want to move past that situation, or you want to try a different type of spell. You don't want to work the jar anymore, then you bury it. Essentially, the jar never stops working, but it can, if you don't activate it, if you don't continue to work the jar, the energy can kind of simmer down and sort of die out. So you bury the jar. If your situation is where you're like, I'm done, I'm over it, I'm not doing this anymore, maybe the court case ended, you got victory. Maybe the relationship, you're like, you know what, I'm walking away from this. I've put in enough energy. Maybe the goal that you were trying to work on, you accomplished. You got that raise at work. You got that car that you were trying to manifest. What do? You can simply disassemble the jar. Well, let me go back. Not the raise at work, not the car. But whenever you decide you're done with the situation, you're not putting any more effort, you're not working on it, or maybe it doesn't work, or you don't want it anymore, you simply disassemble a jar. You open it up, you pour the content out, you throw it away. If you're doing a banish jar, a hex jar, a breakup jar, any type of baneful magic, then you would dispose of the jar. And if you're trying to remove a situation, you can cast it off into a natural body of running water. That's not my favorite way to do it. I don't believe in putting stuff in oceans or polluting lakes, but that is one very typical traditional way in folk magic that people do it. You could throw it away in a trash can. You could throw it away from your house. You could leave it at a crossroads. You could take it to a landfill. I don't know. You could dump it off, leave it in the cemetery. Again, depending on the situation. Don't just be throwing stuff in the cemetery either. That's a whole nother video. But you would essentially dispose of it, throw it away, release it, and let it go. Pardon me. A girl has to have her wine. Another way. So what did I cover? Bury, throw away, toss, open up, and pour out. That's really the 3 main ways, or you just keep it. So my self-love jar stays on my altar next to my bed. My money jar sits on my altar with Ganesh. I kind of keep it down here, and then I will refresh the candle periodically. My client jars, I keep them in sort of just a little separate area. And if, oftentimes clients may come back to me a month, 2 months, 6 months later for the same situation, and it's like I still have their jar. I used to mail them out to clients, but it's just too risky, them getting broken, so I don't do that anymore. And then sometimes a client will reach out to me and tell me that the situation was resolved, or they're no longer dealing with that person, or they're no longer dealing with that situation, and I can dispose of the jar. And if I don't hear back from a person for 6 months or a year, I just bury the jar and wish them well. And if they come back, it's like, well, I ain't heard from you, so we can always make another one, type of thing. But that's sort of how I dispose of my jar. Water moves targets very fast. So, for example, let's take the chicken heart jar, for example. I could place this jar in a bowl of water, light a candle on it, activate it, make things move very quickly. I could do that with this jar. Even though there's water in this jar, if I want to amplify it even more, I can place it down inside of water. Water is a beautiful conductor of energy, and it removes negativity. So placing your jars, placing your candles inside of water will conduct that energy and make things a lot stronger and move a lot quicker. Something else I was going to mention. What was it? I have notes here. I was trying to keep up. It came into my mind. It just slipped it, but that's okay. What kind of jar? Does it matter the type of jar? Can you just pull a jar out of your refrigerator and use it? So, in hindsight, yeah, you can. You can get a jar out, clean it out really, really, really good. Make sure it doesn't have any odor, from whatever was in there, whatever content. So, maybe you have a jar of pickles or garlic or jalapeno, something like that. This is my thing, and this could be me being super anal. I would not do a love working in a jar that had garlic in it, or a jar that had jalapenos, or a jar that had pickles, or a jar that had anything that was so be mindful of that. Again, can you pull out an old jar, wash it out, smudge it and use it? You most definitely can. Personally, I choose not to do that. It just doesn't sit well with me, that energy. I like to get these little mason jars from Target. They come in a case. These are quilted jars. They're very pretty. And with me, aesthetic, if I'm doing a self-love jar, I want to see what's in there, right? I need to see it. I need to connect to it. It needs to feel pretty. Not all jars look pretty. Not all. I did a hex in a banish jar recently that I got rid of, and that jar was ugly. Well, it wasn't meant to be all pretty, right? So I like the ones that, what are these? The smooth ones that you can kind of see through, but quilted jars are fine. That's up to you. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be that super complicated. That's just me being extra anal, but I kind of like knowing that my jar is clean and there was nothing else in here. It just came as it is. I run some dragon's blood or sage or Palo Santo, whatever, cleanse the actual jar, and then I get to work preparing it. So that's just my opinion, but at the end of the day, work with what you have. I believe in being a budget-friendly witch, so if it's not in your budget to go out and buy jars, or your local dollar store doesn't have them, then yeah, use what you got on hand. Good luck to you. I think that's really all I had to say. I had something else to say, but I can't remember, and that's okay. But y'all get the gist of it. So now you know what the difference is, what ingredients can be used, how to use them so you can pick out what you need, what you can add to them. I have several videos here on my YouTube channel on creating different types of jars. You can scroll through the videos and see I have a jar on success for the new year. I have jars on court cases. I have jars on everything. So just scroll through the videos if you're looking for a spell, or just create one on your own, make it up. I don't know. That's the beauty of magic. You are in control. You get to pick and choose your ingredients and how they work for you. So was this helpful? I hope this was helpful. I love jars, and something that I've learned also, I'm gonna leave you guys with this little bonus tip. Everybody will, on your spiritual journey and on your magical path, you will find that you may have a strength in one area of magic, or one tool may work better for you versus others. So for example, water spells, I've learned that if I place my candles or my jars in water, they work a lot quicker. I'm a Pisces, I'm a water sign, that's my element. If I'm doing a spell on a water sign, water will work. Now, that doesn't necessarily always mean, oh, because they're a water sign, or oh, because I'm a water sign, I need to use water. No, it doesn't mean that. But I have learned that there are certain things that work and move a lot faster for me. So if typical freestanding candles don't produce results as quickly, or 7-day candles don't produce results as quickly as you feel like they should, and you know that it's not your limiting character, your self-doubt, disbelief, you didn't sabotage the spell, then it just may mean that you might want to try something else. Maybe jars are your thing. I have a girlfriend who, her jar spells, they just work. Like, her magic works, but her jar spells, something about them, they hit like overnight. That's like her niche. Like, jar spells is what her spiritual language is. So if one thing doesn't work for you, try something else, because maybe your jar spells will be more successful than whatever else you've been doing. So that's just y'all bonus tip for the day. Okay, all right, my loves, I hope this video was helpful. Please like this video, give it a thumbs up, it helps my channel grow. If this was helpful, share it with somebody you love. If you have questions, comments, did I miss something, did I not answer something, leave it all down below. I love reading them. I have gotten a lot better about replying to you guys. All my information, if you want to consult with me privately, if you want to talk about your jar, how to work it, perhaps you want to have one done for you, all that information will be in the description box. Subscribe to my channel. Your girl is trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. I would love, this is my message to the universe, I would love to get to 100,000 subscribers. Not necessarily because I want to have this number on my YouTube channel, but I really, my mission and what I've learned of my life purposes is to help people better themselves and get themselves into a better place so we can all collectively enjoy the time that we have here on earth. So the more subscribers, the more likes the video get, the more this helpful information gets out to other people like you and me who are just trying to manifest the best life possible for yourself, for your family, for your kids, all that good stuff. My birthday is in 2 weeks, March 2nd. It would be such an awesome birthday gift to see that 100K and just know that I'm making a little bit of a difference, a little bit of an impact in what seems to be kind of a negative time right now. So I'm here for you guys. I love you. Mystic at the Crossroads, Jasmine Atten. Follow me on Instagram at One Ritual Way, Facebook under Jasmine Atten, oneritualway.com to book an appointment. I love you guys, and I will talk to y'all next time.